Take a look at is basically your starts. So what I really want to be able to do is have you see where his belt buckle starts. All right? See how his belt buckle is showing here? First thing he does is he's going to lift his front foot. You see him lift his front foot and he really starts to stride forward. As he strides forward, he does what we call a hip hinge. He really stays into these hips. His butt starts to drive a little far, basically starts to drive backwards, like towards the dugout, and he's really creating like a three-dimensional load. What we see a lot of guys do is when they load, you think about, yes, you want to use your legs, but what guys think about doing is really driving it into the ground instead of getting also back. Reason being, when we just go straight down, all we're doing is engaging our quads. What we really want to do is engage our hamstrings, because our hamstrings are the strongest muscles in our legs. So we want to use, when we basically want to hit the ball hard, what do we want to do? Use the strongest muscles we got, right? So that's exactly where we kind of want to be. So you'll see him do this. He's really driving forward. So look at this positive move forward he creates. This is where his belt buckle started. This is where his foot started. Now, I'm not saying you necessarily need to take this big of a step, but what I'm basically showing you is that positive move forward, how he's able to really create that, almost like if you think about like a rubber band, if you were going to pull something back, you want to create like a nice little stretch to it, be able to create that power and torque. Look at his weight, centered straight over him. Basically, he's 50-50, really athletic, in a position to really drive that ball. Now let's take a look what you do here. This is basically the same point. You both took a step forward. His was obviously bigger than yours.
Yeah.
Do you see the difference in your legs?
Yeah.
What's the difference in your legs?
His knees are bent more.
Yeah, he's moves into his legs a lot more.
Yeah.
Your knees are a little bent, which is fine, but we're not into our hips at all. There's no hip hinge here. You're basically just standing nice and tall. Or we're just tall, not necessarily nice. But what we want you to be able to do is really start to think about driving. And what I mean by that is allowing ourselves to get in a position where I can go, this is what I want to feel. I want to feel myself getting to these hamstrings versus if I just go straight down. Stand up for me. Literally just bend your knees. Where do you feel a stretch? Correct, that's your quads. Now stick your butt out a little bit. Think about going this way. Think about hiding your belly. Where do you feel it?
What?
You should feel it right here.
Yeah.
That's exactly the difference. We want you to start feeling this when you swing. I want you feeling your hamstrings, not your quads. So when we feel our hamstrings, we're using the strongest muscles. So right now, that's what our first focus is going to be with you, is to really think about our hamstring load versus quad load. And that's creating that hip hinge, what you're going to hear us say a lot is hide your belt buckle. On top of that, where's the knob of Mookie Betts' bat facing?
I don't.
So that catcher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the knob of your bat facing?
Straight down.
Mm-hmm. Think about it. So we compare a lot of what you'll hear me compare when we talk about our swing is going to be hitting to boxing. Reason being, what does a boxer want to do when he gets into the ring?
Punch the other dude.
Okay. When you're thinking about punching, what are you thinking about?
Winning.
Correct. But how do you win when you're boxing? You want to hit something. You want to hit something hard.
Yeah.
When you hit the baseball, what do you want to do?
Hard.
Correct. Same concept. So if I'm going to throw a punch, how would I want to throw a punch? What's the first two things I got to do when I'm throwing a punch? If you're trying to reach me right now, what would you do?
Block.
What's the first thing? What's the first thing you got to do to be able to get me? Correct. But as you load, what are you doing? If I need to punch you, first thing I got to do is I'm taking a step towards you. I'm creating that positive move forward. Second thing, correct. Load. Where did you load to? You loaded up top. Look where Mookie Betts is loading up top. But look where you're hitting. From your stance. Look where your load is. You're loaded from the side. So think about it. Now, if you're trying to throw that same punch that you're talking about, you're now punching from here. Try to throw a punch from here. Do you feel stronger from here? Do you feel stronger from here?
Yeah.
Correct. That's the same concept we want to think about when we're hitting. I want to be, now take away boxing. Put other sports into play. Baseball. If I'm throwing a baseball, I can throw a ball harder from here than I can from here. If I'm serving a tennis racket, I can hit it harder from here than I can from here. If we're throwing a football, I can throw a ball farther from here than I can from here. Same concept. We want to put ourselves, same thing. Yeah, I'm not shooting a basketball from here. Even passing a basketball, I could throw a ball harder this way than I can this way. Everything I do, I want to put myself, especially when top of the swing, I want to put myself in the most powerful positions I can be in. Our hands starting up here. Where's my cursor? Where'd it go?
Oh, I see it.
There it is. I want my hands here, connected basically to that shoulder. You see how yours are starting to get really away, and you're creating this like, you're gonna, instead of getting into your step, which is right here, you're thinking this way, where I want you thinking this way. I want this instead of this.
So you want closer.
Yeah. Basically, you want to stay connected. Your human body moves better together. If I have everything all spread out, it's gonna be a lot spread.
So just go.
Not necessarily just this way, because I'm not thinking about rotating my shoulders to my hands. I'm thinking. You see that? I'm not. There you go. Better. You want to think about going this way versus this way, or what I also don't want. Yes, this is creating this, but I don't want your hands and your shoulders turning you this way because you're not scapulating. All you're doing is turning your shoulders. This is scapulating. This is getting into this. I want to be able to feel this. This is just rotation of my shoulders, and now I'm closing myself off to the picture. Make sense? All right. Let's go to bat lag. You know what bat lag is? Bat lag is when your bat is parallel to the ground. Right there. No, that's about it. Now I'll even stop here. From right here, you dropping your arms. I can tell that alone, your swing's going to work very, very east to west. And you'll see what I mean by that. Okay. Basically both at bat lag. Tell me what you notice here. What's the biggest difference?
His knees are much more bent.
His legs. He's driving with his legs. He's staying into the ground and really able to explode, where you're pretty much standing straight tall.
Yeah, he's lower, yeah.
You're pretty much straight tall here. That's the biggest focus of what we want to think about. Secondly, look where your belt buckle is. It's pointing to pretty much near the camera / a little towards the first baseline. Look where his belt buckle is. It's right at the pitcher. What he's doing is he's exploding and torquing from that back hip. That back hip is really going forward. But it's not necessarily this way, it's that hip that's exploding. You watch football at all?
Yeah, I watch college football.
You watch, like, have you seen Dak Prescott do his little pregame, like, that little dance that he does pregame? Have you ever seen that?
No.
Basically what Dak does is as he's throwing, like pregame, he just does that. What he's doing, he's thinking about his hips. Really thinking about firing his hips. And while it looks funny and people like joke about it, the whole point of what he's trying to do is feel that hip engagement. And that's what we really want to start thinking about. We'll move towards contact. Basically contact. This mouse does not want to. There we go. Alright. At contact, you're making contact right up front of that front foot. He's making contact right at that front foot. So good job there. Head is looking at the ball there. Your eyes are on the ball. Great job. What's the biggest piece though?
He's still really low.
Correct. His legs are engaged. His legs are.
After this, are we going to see if I improve or no?
We can take a couple extra ones today. We can do that.
Sing this really.
Alright. What do you notice the biggest difference here?
He's still really low.
There's a bigger difference here that I want to talk about.
Oh, his arms are more extended than mine?
Correct. Now, by extension, we want to think about serving a pizza. Something as simple as serving a pizza. If I was going to serve you a pizza, how would I want to serve it to you? Would I want to serve it to you palm up or palm down?
Palm up.
Correct. What happens if I serve it to you palm down?
Probably fall.
What happens if I serve you a pizza sideways?
It's gonna fall off.
Exactly. Same exact thing. When we're hitting, we want to think about serving a pizza or putting a pizza in the oven. That top hand of my bat, I want to think about basically keeping it here, 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 through extension. I want this right here. I want my palm staying up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I want basically through finish, I want to be able to fully extend and be in this position so I can serve pizza and think about going this way. You'll see big leaguers that after swing and miss, or even in the on deck circle, you'll just see them like no bat in hand, just working on. Just wanting to feel this motion. That's the kind of the concept we want to think about, is working south to north. South, north.
And these little things he's talking to you about, practicing the hip and doing this, no one needs to be with you doing that. This is stuff that you can practice on your own, right?
I'll do it with him.
Right, in my front yard, I could just like practice it like slowly, like getting all the steps right because if somebody pitches to me only, I'm not gonna like.
The whole point is muscle memory.
Yeah.
So like these are things that you can do prior to someone throwing these, so that way when you are doing it, it becomes more natural.
And he's telling you a lot. In each session, you'd break down each thing and probably work on it one at a time so that you could eventually put together. He's not telling you this so you can fix it all at one time.
Yeah, this is not something that I kind of work through like exactly kind of what our goal would be once we're done. So, but I just want to go over your swing first so you can see it. Biggest thing here, through extension, is this big circle. It's a horrible circle, but see that difference? What you're doing is you're cutting yourself off. This big circle we call the money gap. The reason we call it the money gap is the bigger that circle, the more doubles, triples, home runs you hit. Those guys are the guys who make the most money. Those are the guys who are the most. That's what gets you the college scholarship money. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Being able to drive the ball. Really thinking about extension and driving that ball.
That's because his arms are more extended.
Basically staying through extension. Extending through the ball and really kind of finishing that swing. I mean, think about it. If you were going back to boxing, if the boxer's going to sit there and he's throwing a punch, he doesn't want to hit him and stop. He's punching through it. He's finishing that. Same thing. If you're hitting a tennis racket, you don't want to hit the ball and just stop. Shooting basketball, you don't just let go and stop. Everything's got to follow through.
Full force.
Yeah, everything's got to follow through. Same thing with our swing. We want to be able to extend through that.
Are you want to talk about like your belly, like when you end up, your foot should be extended forward. Is that a good way to hit? Like.
What do you mean by that?
Like your foot.
Hold on, step back. I really can't see anything.
Your foot. Belly.
Doesn't necessarily need to be completely straightforward. I mean, that's
Okay.
like you'll see here, his foot's not necessarily straightforward.
Yeah.
He's still got it at a 45 degree, but he naturally turns. It's more of what your body does. Your feet are more just to position you, and then everything else you want to think about driving, and the rest of it kind of falls into line, falls in place. Biggest thing here is you see him finishing. Look at that.
Straight.
Nice and tall. Basically, his legs are he's still on the ground. Front leg's still locked, but he's really starting to get that. Now he's getting rotation at that top half really well.
Yeah.
Finishes through, and I can basically see Betts number 50 right there. Now, when you finish, while you return your shoulders, you see how you finish really on the side of your body versus above. See that difference?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of from what we're talking about working that east to west. We want to think about true extension working forward.
See how bent his legs are?
Yeah, it
And
stays
how
through.
straight
Yeah.
your legs are?
You look like you're walking.
Yeah.
I'll show you one other guy, my favorite guy to watch swim.
Vladdy
Now,
Guerrero.
talking about his stance. I know you were kind of talking about his legs and everything else. Vladdy actually kind of gets some of that little same bend in those knees, like inward a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But as he kind of takes a step, he does exactly, though he starts completely different, you see he takes this big step inwards, but when he actually starts his swing, he takes that same step outwards and look where he ends up. That big positive move forward, that butts back, knobs facing towards that catcher there, heads over center, and he's a really athletic 50-50 hitting position. Through extension, you see him come through here, stays inside the ball, really starts to drive with his hip. Boom. Everything stays the same. See that? Any questions on any of this stuff?
See how much he's rotated, how you can see his whole name?
Yeah.
But when I want you to think, when you're thinking about that though, I don't want you thinking, oh, I need to rotate my shoulders. Because right now where you're at, I don't want you thinking rotate my shoulders and I need to do this. Because that's still working east to west. I don't want you thinking here, like I said, everything kind of going forward versus sideways. Because if I just think I need to turn this way so my jersey shows, I can do that and I can end up like this, but that's not helping me. I'm not putting myself in a good position. I want to be in a position where I can go, now I'm getting true extension. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. What questions you got for me?